again with Raywat Deonandan. He is an epidemiologist at the University of Ottawa and frequently joins us here on 680 CJOB. Thank you so very much for joining us again this Monday.
Thank you very much for having me.
What are the benefits and perhaps the non-benefits of wearing just one of those cloth masks?
People need to understand that the mask isn't to protect you necessarily. You get a modicum of protection, maybe like 1 or 2% of diminished viral transmission. It's to protect other people from you. So your mask protects me, my mask protects you. And the idea is that, as we know, the disease is spread by droplets that we exhale from our lungs, and those droplets can travel about 2 meters on average. But if you wear a mask, it's a windbreak that prevents the air leaving my mouth from going very far. So if I am sick, I can only spread it a couple of centimeters. That's the idea. And if you scale this up to a large population, that's enough of a dampening effect on transmission to lower the overall population transmission sufficiently that not a lot of people get sick.
So it just comes down to the sheer numbers. If I go out and, like you say, the mask isn't necessarily protecting me, but if you're wearing a mask and there's only 2 of us in an area, then we're both protected. So I don't understand why there is that resistance to wearing them, because if everyone was, we would all, in theory, be protected. Does this come down to a cultural thing?
Yeah, it could be. There's also a messaging thing. Earlier on in the pandemic, there was some mixed messaging from the clinical community about masks because we were still thinking about it as personal protection. How to wear your mask safely, how to dispose of your mask, how to take it off without contaminating you. All that comes from doctors' experiences in the hospital. That's not relevant here. Right? So we have to get away from the idea of individual risk and talk about population risk. Now, the reasons that people are hesitant to wear masks from a scientific perspective, when we have the critical mask, we're concerned about cross-contamination. There's a reason that doctors change masks in between patients. You don't want to contaminate one with the other. But that's not relevant here anymore. So all that scientific hesitancies around mask wearing, I think, should be thrown out the window. The other hesitancies have to do with your rights. I have a right not to wear a mask, sure. But at the same time, restaurants have a right to deny you service if you're not wearing a shirt or shoes. That's a public health thing. So the same thing applies here. It's a public health thing. So as individuals, we may not notice the impact of the mask on our lives, but again, at a population level, in coordination with hand washing and distancing, this can have profound effects on a rate of transmission. But we need a fair proportion of the population to do it, between like 40 and 70% of the population to be on board. Otherwise, it doesn't really work that well.
No shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service.
Exactly.
I have thus far chosen, for the most part, not to wear a mask. Yet I am very aware of my surroundings, and when going somewhere, keeping that physical distance from others as much as possible. What I'm hearing in you is even people that believe that this is fine without a mask, you're saying better to be safe than sorry.
Not necessarily. If you're keeping your 2-meter distance, the mask doesn't offer that much additional protection, but it's mostly for situations when you cannot maintain that distance, like a dinner, a meeting, sitting close to somebody, an elevator. However, there is a psychological component. If I see you wearing a mask, I know that you are thinking about safety. I feel safe around you. If I see you not wearing a mask, I might think, oh, here's a guy who doesn't take this stuff seriously, and maybe my anxiety gets ratcheted up. So there is a community communication aspect to this as well, a visual representation that we're all in this together. But scientifically, it's mostly about those situations where I cannot distance myself sufficiently. So it comes down to that. It's the numbers. It's the scaling factor at the population level. How do we get mass buy-in? And remember, if we all do this, it's a small impingement on our civil liberties, but we all do this, we can avoid having to go back inside.
And I think that's key, especially when you see the pictures, for example, of the Toronto area on the weekend. But when I listen to your answer about, how it, ends up impacting all of us, it almost sounds like we're having a conversation about a vaccine. I get the vaccine not because I'm going to get sick, but it will protect me from getting sick, and it will also protect me from spreading it to other people from getting sick. So in essence, the mask right now is almost like, it's clearly not as good as a vaccine, but you could think about it as a vaccine protecting others, and the more people that wear them, more people are protected.
That is exactly right. That's the perfect analogy. And now you get a sense of public health frustration with vaccine communication. People are anti-vaccination because they do not perceive the risk to themselves individually, and they fail to understand that this is a population issue. You don't see measles around because people got vaccinated for it. You don't see COVID around because people wore a lot of masks and kept their distance. That's hopefully how this will turn out. So part of the challenge in being a public health communicator in this crisis is having people make that switch about individual rights and individual risk to population responsibilities. And given that this disease is not going away anytime soon, the only way we get through this is for everyone to do their part. And their part is not that daunting. Keep your distance, wear a mask, wash your hands. It's not rocket science. It doesn't cost you any money. It's just a little bit extra effort on your day-to-day activities. That's it.
Raywat Deonandan, thank you so very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
He is an epidemiologist at the University of Ottawa. It gets us to our